Well, hello, everyone. My name is Dan Armstrong. I'm the Corporate Communications Specialist at Covenant Eyes, filling in for Ron DeHaas this week. And we have a real treat today, and being able to interview one of my heroes who has helped out my family quite a bit with her authorship, her advice, and it's going to be a really good time today. Kristen Jensen is the founder of ProtectYoungMinds.org. She's a best-selling author of this book here. It's called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, Porn-Proofing Today's Young Kids. And most recently, she authored another book called Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior, A Simple Plan to Protect Young Minds. She serves as on the Prevention Task Force of the National Center on Sexual Exploitation. She's a wife and mother of 3 adult children now. And it is truly a pleasure to have Kristen Jensen joining us today. Kristen, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, Dan. It's great to be here with you.
This topic was immensely helpful for me, and it's interesting that even though I work at Covenant Eyes, many people that work here at Covenant Eyes still need help in talking to our own children about this topic, and your book lays it out very well. One of the first questions I have for you is, many people may be thinking, I want to protect innocence in my children as much as I can. I had a 8, 6, and 4-year-old last year, all girls, so I want to really protect them, but after reading this book with them, very much helped them out. So when many people probably come to you and say, I want to protect the innocence of my children, I don't want to have to talk about pornography or sexuality with them, what's your response to them?
My response is that you have a certain amount of power as a parent to influence your children. And one of the advantages you have is the power of the first impression. So don't forfeit that power of the first impression to the porn industry, because they don't care about your kids. They want to get to them as young as possible. And you can't control exactly when they'll be exposed to pornography. All you can control is when you are going to begin the conversation. So if you lived in an area where there were scorpions all over the place, you'd probably start telling your children at a very young age what they look like, how to avoid them, that they were poisonous, don't play with them, don't pick them up and put them in your mouth, that kind of thing. You would teach your children about the scorpions. Well, we have scorpions coming through our digital devices, and it's pornography. And you just never know when your child will be exposed, whether it's on a school bus, at a friend's home, anywhere. It can happen. It's ubiquitous. So I say your kids will be safer if you start that conversation as soon as your child has any access whatsoever to the internet. Once they have access to the internet, they are at risk. And you will preserve, by giving them the power to recognize it and reject it, you're actually preserving their innocence. We could say, I don't want my child to know that there are cars out there that could hit them and hurt them. So I'm not going to talk to them about the cars on the street. I'm just going to try to keep them from ever running out into the street. Well, you know how that works. Sure. So you have to teach your child that when we let them out into the internet, they need to be warned, and the earlier the better, right?
Yep.
Because I'm sure now that conversation that you've opened up with your kids is going to be so much easier. If you'd started when they were 13 or 14, might have been a little awkward, but when you start when they're young, you set the context, and they just think it's a normal part of, the information that they get from you about all kinds of things. They don't inherently think, oh my gosh, this is something I don't want to talk about. Most kids, if you approach it, like you have, and in a calm and happy or just in a calm manner, so that they're not freaking out and you're not freaking out, then it'll be great. I've heard so many great stories from parents that it's turned out really well.
I think a lot of times people think that preserving innocence, that's what they think they're doing, but what they're actually doing is preserving and promoting ignorance, which we do definitely want to get rid of. One thing I want to mention is a good tie-in to our Facebook contest we have going on right now. We're giving away 4 $50 gift cards, and all you have to do is go to the Covenant Eyes Facebook page. There is an article that's pinned at the top of that. All you have to do is like that post, comment on the post answering the question of what would you say or do if your child approached you asking what the word pornography means. So this is a good tie-in to what we're talking about with Kristen Jensen, author of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and also founder of protectyoungminds.org. Again, go to our Facebook page and like that article, and then leave a comment. What would you do if your children came to you for the first time and asked what pornography was? Next question, Kristen, how does this conversation even begin? I think people think, wow, I got a 4-year-old or a 5-year-old, and I don't even know where to start this because I don't know what context they're coming from. They're so young. What does a first conversation even look like?
Well, just going back to what you said before about how you needed some help, even though you're an expert in this problem, I've had therapists come to me and say, I know about this. I counsel people with this problem, but I didn't know how to talk to my own young kids. And that really was the point of the book, is to provide a script that parents could use to start the conversation to help their children, 1, recognize what it was, 2, understand the harms that pornography does, and 3, know how to reject it, a specific plan for how to reject it. So in our books, we basically start with a mom talking. In the original book, we have a mom talking with her son, although girls are just as vulnerable, talking with her son about good pictures and bad pictures. So you could start the same way. And we also do that with our new book, Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior, where we just start talking about, hey, there are pictures everywhere, on the wall, and there's dad putting up a picture. We talk about good pictures, and then we say there are good pictures, but there's also bad pictures. And we give a very simple, age-appropriate definition of bad pictures or pornography. And it's simply pictures that focus on the private parts of the body, the parts of the body that we keep covered with a swimsuit. And we also talk about how those pictures might make a child feel. So it's hard to define pornography, because for one person it might be one thing, and for a child it might be a completely different thing. So I say pornography is anything that really arouses a sexual interest or a sexual feeling. And the books were designed to be able to be read to a child even before you have the sex talk. So we don't even use the word sex.
Yeah.
And that took a little doing, I have to say, to write that book in a way that it would be comfortable, because what we realized was that young children, even before the age of that they would be interested in the birds and the bees and finding out all that, needed to be warned about pornography because it was getting to them.
I think that's interesting, because we identified one of the barriers is mostly parents saying, my kid's too young, I want to preserve innocence, so we're not going to talk about this. Another one could be, they're not ready for the birds and the bees talk. They're not ready for the sex talk, so I'm going to preserve that until that time. What are some other barriers that you've seen from parents? Maybe they've had an experience that is also preventing them from explaining this to their kids and educating their kids on this early.
Well, it seems like there are two camps. There are parents that are afraid that their child might get into this, and they're so afraid they're freaking out, and they're kind of like frozen. They can't seem to go forward. They can't figure out a way to do it. And then the other camp are people that have been involved in pornography, and they feel shame, and they hesitate to talk to their children about it. They just want to be in denial, and it's just too close. So I think that the best thing you can do, even if you're trying to recover from pornography addiction, is to let your children know that there is this thing called pornography, is to protect them, save them from, the difficulties that you've been through. And that's what most parents want to do, is to make their child's life a little easier than their own. And so definitely one of those things you can do is to help. So as far as barriers, and I think that really just knowing how to start the conversation, also feeling like you said that, you're going to somehow rob them of their innocence. And you are not. It's not you robbing them of their innocence. It's the world out there. And, when we were talking before the broadcast, I talked to you, I was on YouTube the other day just watching all these videos of these kids making musical-y videos and how sexualized they were and the kinds of songs they were singing. And these were like little 10, 11-year-old kids. And I was really, it's a little discouraging to see that. So it's important to get to them young and to bring this up young, so you just are going to empower them to preserve their own innocence.
Yeah, culture is definitely educating them one way or the other. Just a reminder for our giveaway, we're giving away 4 $50 Amazon gift cards, and I thought it'd be kind of cool. If you win one of those, you can purchase Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and also Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior with one of those $50 Amazon gift cards. All you have to do is go to our Facebook page at Covenant Eyes, and go to the very top where we have a pinned article up there. The question that we're asking is, what would you do if a child came to you and asked you what pornography was? What would you say, or what would you do if it was your child? So like that post and also comment on it, and then you'll be entered to win one of those 4 Amazon gift cards. Another question, and we touched on this just briefly, Kristen, was what if people think it's too late? I have a preteen, or if I have a teenager right now that I haven't had any kind of conversation yet. They're already making these types of videos you're talking about that may be sexualized. What can a parent do at this stage? They regret not getting to it soon enough, but now, is it too late?
Yeah. Well, I would say that it's never too late to start the conversation, because pornography can be with you for your whole life, right? And
Sure.
As soon as you can help to warn your child about that, it's going to be so helpful. So I would say that I speak to teens all the time. And one of the things I hear back from them is, thank you. Thank you for educating me. I had no idea that it could become a physical addiction. I had no idea that it could destroy a marriage. They didn't know this. I mean, we know this, but they didn't know this. They didn't know that it was linked with sex trafficking and all forms of sexual exploitation. So kids are very fair-minded. They want social justice. They want justice, and it's not just to have people being exploited to make pornography. And so when you teach them that, and also teach them how addictive pornography can be, they appreciate that knowledge. So the main thing is to not come at it in a demeaning way, or just, hey, start talking about this. Hey, I read an article today. I did not know that pornography is an actual addiction that actually can shrink the brain. That, they've done MRI studies, and there's all this science. So I think that if you come at it if you work on your relationship with your child, so it's warm, and yes, you have discipline, but that there's this warm, loving, caring relationship, then I think it's never too late to bring it up and to start. And even if they've been into it, they're going to appreciate having that information, and being empowered.
We're talking.
Like I said, I get kids coming to me all the time, and I'm always surprised, because we forget what we know, but they don't know. They don't have a clue.
We're talking with best-selling author Kristen Jensen of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and now Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. She's also the founder of ProtectYoungMinds.org. We encourage you to go to that website. If you have any more questions about how do I approach this with my children, what helps are out there for me as a parent to guide my children and to teach them how to look at this subject, how to process this subject of pornography and sexuality. Kristen, can you tell me how powerful is the very first impression that when a child sees pornography, either accidentally or intentionally, how powerful is that first exposure to pornography?
It's very powerful. It's shocking. And shock makes a very powerful and strong memory. We're designed that way. Our brains are designed to remember shocking things. And so you have this initial exposure. The other thing that is important to remember is that children, even young children, can have arousing feelings. They can have feelings of arousal. Many people think that that only comes with puberty, but that's not exactly true. So young children can feel sexually aroused by sexual pictures and videos. And so they have this very shocking memory that is created in their brain. And now what do they do with it? It keeps popping back up into their consciousness. And so that's one of the things that we teach children with the can-do plan in our original book is how to distract their minds away from that image to think of something else that's also very exciting and to train their brain to revert to something different, something exciting, something positive, instead of continually focusing on that video or on that memory of that shocking picture. And that really helps. That's a skill. That's a cognitive skill that children need to learn to be able to protect themselves from pornography. And we teach that also in Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. We have it at the back. We have a whole section for parents that goes through this and explains exactly how to help children minimize that shocking memory of pornography.
And that's what I appreciate about the book is it gives a roadmap of what to do. It's an instruction manual of what to do. I think a lot of people will say the kids saw this, I talked to them about it. If we've talked about it, I've done my job. But we haven't instilled those skills that you talk about of what to do. Okay, when this happens, it's like an emergency plan.
Yeah.
If a building's on fire or a tornado comes, recognizing that is just one step of the process, and then the process should develop from there.
Right, exactly. You need to see yourself as a parent, you need to see yourself as a mentor, as a coach. And it's not a one and done, it's something that continues, because guess what? Pornography is not going away anytime soon, and it's still going to be a part of their lives that they have to protect themselves from. So, yeah, it's very important to see yourself as a coach and have ongoing conversations. And as the child grows and matures, to make those conversations more, keep them relevant to the situation. And that's one of the things we try to do with and you do too there at Covenant Eyes, at Protect Young Minds. We try to keep parents informed through our weekly blog, through guides and tools that are very practical, help parents to stay on top of what's actually happening out there. Dan, there is this gap between what kids need to learn on the one hand and what parents are comfortable talking about. What's palatable, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we need to close that gap because our kids need us, and they need us to be direct. They need us to give them good information. They need us to give them tools and cognitive skills, to teach them cognitive skills to deal with a very pernicious enemy that is constantly around them. So that's what we've tried to do in both books, to help parents start that conversation and continue it, and to fortify and arm children early enough where the kids are still listening to you. I mean, I remember my kids growing up, and they got to be 12, and then I started to feel, it's not that I didn't have influence.
Sure.
I mean, I still have influence on my kids, and they're adults. But I could tell that they were starting to question. They start to realize, oh, mom and dad aren't perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, Dan, when you finally realize that that moment has come, it's like, oh, dang it.
I bet.
But, if you can get to them early, that you have all that credibility on your side. If they've already been looking at porn and they've gotten their information from their friends, from from Google,
Yeah.
It just diminishes your influence just a little bit. So why not take advantage of time and be right on top of it from the earliest point?
Sure. Well, thank you so much. Our time is up, unfortunately, Kristen, but thank you so much for being with us today. We love having you on here. You're a good friend of Covenant Eyes, this organization, and good luck in everything else you do. Please pick up a copy of Good Pictures, Bad Pictures, and also Good Pictures, Bad Pictures Junior. We're giving away those 4 $50 Amazon gift cards, and if you win one of those, you can use that to purchase these books. And all you have to do is like the pinned article at the top of our Facebook page. We're going to have this contest going until Friday, September 1st. So if you're watching this after September 1st, your time has already expired, but we do encourage you to do that. Kristen, thank you again once again for joining us and for your information, and we'll see everyone next week.
Thanks.